as we're still in the same predicament, let's give more tzedakah together and express our tefillah, our prayer to Hashem, our unified prayer, that we should be reunified, reunited, all of Klal Yisrael, the entire Jewish people, in safety and security, in Eretz Yisrael, in the Beis HaMikdash with Mashiach. As a follow-up to yesterday's discussion about Avram Avinu, how miraculously he threw sand and straw and they turned into weapons, and that's how he was able to save Lot and the other hostages from the king Kedol Omer. This had tremendous repercussions years later, and this happened during the destruction of the temple, when the Romans conquered Eretz Yisrael. And at one point, they were coming up with an additional decree, hurting the Jews even further. The sages decided that they have to appease the king, emperor in Rome, and send him a gift. So they decided to ask Nochem Ish Gamzu. Nochem Ish Gamzu was an individual. His name was Nochem, but anything that happened, he always had one mantra, one statement. Gamzu letoiva. This too is for the good. Anything that seemed to be extremely, extremely challenging and negative, he was always positive. This is coming from God, and this is also for the good. So they started actually calling him Nochem Ish Gamzu. So they chose Nochem Ish Gamzu with this specific mission of bringing a beautiful, magnificent box filled with gold and silver and precious gems to appease the king. On his way, in the inn where he stayed overnight, thieves stole the contents of this magnificent box and filled it with sand. Not sure if Nochem knew or didn't know, but he went to the king. He came as a messenger of the Jewish community in Eretz Yisrael and presented this beautiful gift in honor of the king's birthday. When they opened it up, the king became so furious. Sand you brought to me? You're making fun of me? Death penalty, and we'll see what we're going to do with the Jews. Miraculously that night, Eliyahu Hanavi appeared, the prophet Elijah appeared to the king in disguise as one of his servants. He says, look, you realize the Jews are not suicidal. They're not going to make fun of you. This sand is probably the sand of Avraham Avinu, their forefather Abraham, that he used as a weapon. Happened to be that at that time Rome was in conflict with the barbarians and he had difficulties conquering them, and says, okay, let's try them. Miraculously, it worked. And all the sand that the armies were using, they were able to overcome the barbarians with whom they were at war. Seeing this, the king called Nochem, apologized profusely, gave him tremendous gifts to bring back to the Jewish people in Eretz Yisrael, agreed to cancel the decree that it was going to launch against the Jews, and indeed it was. Gamzu letoiva, this was definitely for the good. But it has an interesting follow-up. On his way back, he stopped off in the same inn. When they saw that he's alive, the innkeeper said, what happened? So he tells them, somebody exchanged the gold and silver for sand, and the king was very appreciative of that sand. And he told him what the king used it for. Happens to be that the innkeeper and his son, they were the thieves. So they gathered more sand, and they put in a huge box. They came to the king in Rome, offering him more of the sand that Nochem had brought earlier, and claiming this is the same sand, and it has the same miraculous powers. Now you can imagine that those miraculous powers it didn't have. And I'll let you imagine what the king did with those two people. The point is, that's a story that the Talmud relates us. Avram Avinu's miracle is one that continues to exist. Existed then in the time of the Romans, time of Nachum, Ish Gamzu, and it exists today too. Maybe in a different way. But we see the phenomenal miracles today, how the rockets, apparently it's close to 8,000 rockets already that fell on Israel, and miraculously they do very little damage. May Hashem help us. We shouldn't need those miracles. We should already be in the Beis Hamikdash, and all those miracles would not be necessary, because the world will be the world filled with goodness and kindness, with peace and harmony, and with the ultimate light, the godly light revealed in this world, which is the light of Mashiach. May this happen now.